Hello and welcome back to Building with Mavis. Today, obviously by the thumbnail and title, we'll be building a mountain, and I'll be adding some lore to my world. Not physically adding it, but just telling you it. Then we'll eventually be able to build it into the world. But first, I want to show y'all all the off-camera things I did to make building the mountain and the castle significantly easier for myself. First, we'll start off with the obvious. I've gotten a horse. In fact, I've gotten 4 horses, one for each cardinal direction in the nether path, and I've named them all. This one is Elifer, meaning the everlasting. This one is Demi, meaning the dark one. This one, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, maybe Hord, something like that, but it means goddess. And last but not least, we have Alberger, meaning irresponsible. I also probably butchered that name. But basically, they're all pretty fast and they all have good health. It's just because I felt like I was wasting so many rockets going down these paths, and I didn't want to build something to set up a boat or a minecart or something. So I just got some pretty fast horses, and they do the job. Secondly, I felt like a lot of my farms could use shulker box loaders, so I went and found designs for a 6-speed shulker box loader, a 2x speed shulker box loader, and a 1x speed shulker box loader. And based off of what each of those farms required, I put in a shulker box loader. There's one here, there's one at the moss farm, there's one for the sugarcane and bamboo. And if we go down to the tree farms, underneath the ground here, there's a shulker box loader for the mangrove. And then I also made a thing where if this is on, the propagules from the farm will come here. And if it's off, it'll come over here and shoot out to refill my inventory while I'm growing mangrove trees. And then if we go up to the dark oak farm, I made the auto sorter way longer, and I added shulker box loaders for pale oak, dark oak, and then the rest of the stuff gets shot up to the building up there. And then there's one last thing that we did at the sheep farm. If we go downstairs to where all the sheep are that we've seen previously, if you come back here, there's a hidden button to open this. And now all the stalls, instead of being 1 sheep, are 4 sheep with shulker box loaders that will shoot up into the double chest up there. So yeah, I think that's everything I did off camera. So let's get to building the mountain. So we got the mountain done, and I figured out in flashback, see we're in flashback, if you press F1, it's just like flying around without your hotbar and stuff to look at stuff. And you can change the flight speed to fly faster or slower. So this is actually really nice for showcasing the stuff. But basically, this mountain, its odd coloring was inspired by those rocks that have multiple like striations of different colors that go through it. I don't know what they're called, but I'll put an image up right now. And that's where I brought in some deep slate stripes, and I brought in some terracotta with oak wood stripes, using like tough as a shadow and going toward light gray concrete powder as a highlight. And basically wherever I felt like water would collect up, also the flat areas I put in the grass. But I didn't want it to be like super lush grass. I wanted it to be like spotty, like rocky grass where like life could grow there, but it's not going to be like super lush. So now I'm building the path, and obviously I did this at some midpoint in the mountain because I got bored of the mountain. So you get bored, you do the next thing. But for video's sake, I figured for it to be more digestible, I should keep the path part separate from the mountain part. We're using a stone andesite stone brick palette with a tough to deep slate to mycelium to show like the concrete that was used wasn't a super strong concrete because modern concretes weren't made until more recently. So I figured our road should be a little dilapidated and messed up, and instead of making like divots that you trip over, I figured I'd show that through block choice and colors. Since these time lapses are long, I want to begin explaining the lore. At the beginning, I knew I wanted it to be a secretive hierarchical coalition, meaning that the upper and lower classes seemingly get along, but in secret, the upper class looked down upon the lower class. But I needed a name, and while pondering, I came across the information that all old chapels faced east, most likely because people used to pray always facing east, but I liked the idea more that the rising sun would shine through the windows behind the priests and illuminate their white robes, giving them a more godly appearance. So when I checked the big cathedral, sure enough, I actually had it faced east, but in contrast, the castle's two chapels face west. This began the idea of countering religions between the upper and lower class, but in ways that weren't made obvious. My simple idea right now is that the people praise the rising sun, while the elite praise the setting sun. The rising sun being a symbol of new beginnings and looking forward to better days, while the setting sun represents the dawn of night and the blood of war. So the name had to do something with the sun, where it could represent both the rising and setting, leading me to name the coalition Scarlet's Dawn. When researching to see if that name made sense, I stumbled upon a series of arcade shooter games called House of the Undead, the last game in the series being named Scarlet's Dawn. The game's lore being so interesting that I want to take it and make it make sense in my world. To do this, we must establish an important event. In the year 1246, a scientist with the king's backing, the king being me, began the Noah's Ark project, with the purpose of creating beings to hunt down humans, forcing man's next stage of evolution. With this in mind, the scientists created the Curian serum, and easily convinced the king that the serum would only work on the elite. So at the summons of the king, all head of the royal houses arrived at the scientist's laboratory, and during the setting sun, they all took the serum, only working on 5 of them, creating 3 perfect beings and 2 imperfect beings. While the rest of the royals were modified into zombie-like creatures, set free to kill the people, scoring the land scarlet, the king, who has become a perfect being, developing immortality and self-replication, bestowed upon the other 4 beings names: the chariot, the hanged man, the high priestess, and the moon. They all have lore as well, coming from the game and from reverse tarot cards, but I want to get into that when they become more relevant later, not in this episode. Unconvinced that 5 was enough to kill all of mankind, the king advised the scientists to hide the 4 named beings and then went to pretend to be on the people's side so they wouldn't lose their favorable position as king. After 12 ruthless hours, the rising sun marked the last zombie's death, and in the following hours, the people would behead the scientist and come to rely on the king for support, and started an era of rebuilding. Fast forward to current times, somewhere around the 1800s, the king has gone mad tearing apart the scientist's laboratory, trying to find the compound to mass produce the Curian serum in hopes to continue the Noah's Ark project, when they stumble upon documents with hints where the scientists hid the 4 named beings. I wish to tie in the rot cities rot in the valley area that I have in this world at my starter area, and to do this, I want to use the king's self-replicating power and make him the head of Rot City's factory, where he is trying and failing to replicate the Curian serum and has been dumping all the fails into the valley below. I also wish to, outside of the walls of the city, to have marks of the rot to show where the zombies were, but within the city. I don't want the rot to be within the city, so because when the people rebuilt the city, they are trying to hide that any disastrous event happened here. Okay, back in flashback here. So I just built up this path, and then I just built up these supports, and it's supposed to be like they were sandstone, and then they got kind of sun bleached white out here on the outside, and then in here, this isn't really texturing, but it's more just like I wanted the shadow to be stronger, so I just made a gradient, and the further you go back, the darker it gets, so that the shadow on here was just stronger than what you get in game. But yeah, it's just a nice little path. And then these paths that I built over here, I'm not completely set on them, but I think that maybe these will be the main streets. This next time lapse shows me getting on all the grass, ferns, dead bushes, and building 107 trees, which took me around over 7 hours, so I did cut them a little short. But I will do a full fly around at the end so that we can see everything. So for this area, I went ahead and got in a bunch of rocks and bushes just to show what it looks like. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this in everywhere. And the mountain will be, air quotes, complete until we have to connect it to the ground and other buildings and stuff. And, you know, maybe I'll do a cave in here somewhere. But yeah, this is just basically complete for now. Okay, so I wanted to time-lapse me getting all the rocks and bushes, but it's really hard because all of the trees are in the way. So I'm just gonna have to do a flashback fly around of the completed thing. So yeah, sorry about that. And also sorry about like not having a bunch of first-person clips. There wasn't much material gathering because I already had the materials in my chest room, and just this is one of those things that when you build it, there's not much that you can like show in first person, in my opinion. But yeah, so basically, for all the trees, bushes, and rocks, what I did was I came up with 4 designs, 4 tree designs, 4 bush designs, 4 rock designs, and I just put them everywhere with random rotations and flipping, so they don't all look the same. Like here you can see this is like a patch of all the small trees, but they're all rotated and flipped and stuff. And then I did like patches of flowers, and then when there is ferns, they're in like clumps. But yeah, it's the mountain done. And you know, maybe cave, maybe not. Eventually, I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be cool to have a cave that's like a secret passage to get into the city that's blocked off or something. Or maybe it could feed into our lore of like that's where the scientist's secret laboratory is or something. But I'm really proud of this landscape, and I'm glad I got it done. It took a lot of time. So here we are, back in a familiar setting. This is the end of the video. I just wanted to say that thanks for watching, and for those that were watching the streams, I'm sorry for not streaming. Internet went out for a while, and then when it came back on, I can't connect to the Twitch servers for that long before it crashes, because the internet connection is just that bad. So hopefully that gets fixed soon, and hopefully I can stream again. We're probably going to start doing a lot smaller projects, or if I do a big project soon, it'll be broken up into parts. I am a part 1, part 2 hater, but just for the sake of my sanity, this has been very big projects, and I've been pumping them out. I feel like I've been pumping them out very fast. Just be nice to slow down a little bit, you know?